Those of you who have seen my thoughts on the trailer for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull might be curious as to what I think about the film itself now that it's finally out. Already, the people are crying that George Lucas raped their childhood and they won't accept this film as part of the indie canon. My view is we have to look at it realistically. We may have been waiting 19 years for a new Indiana Jones film, but Lucas and Spielberg and everyone else haven't been working on it for that long. This isn't meant to be some great masterpiece that'll please everyone. They realized time was running out if they wanted to make another indie film and just decided to go ahead and do it. And considering that backstory, I did find quite a lot to like about the film. The first thing I have to mention is that ever since I first saw Raiders of the Lost Ark at age 6, I've held the big truck and car chase as the greatest action sequence of all time. But this film has a sequence built along similar lines that actually tops it, giving us such a great combination of excitement and ingenuity that I just had a huge grin on my face through the whole thing. What's really amazing is that there's so many moving parts of the sequence, with all kinds of cars, trucks, and people and objects moving between them, along with vines, monkeys, and ants. And yet, unlike some other directors I could mention, Spielberg makes sure we can always follow what's going on and not get lost. I'd almost forgotten just how important this is in the noise-filled action movies of today, and it's great to be reminded like this. Along with Spielberg, Harrison Ford and Karen Allen slip right back into their roles like they're putting on an old pair of comfortable shoes. Cate Blanchett occasionally lets her accent get the better of her, and a couple times I expected to hear her talking about moose and squirrel, but for the most part she's very intimidating and handles a rapier very well. And Shia LaBeouf, though he's a little miscast as a James Dean-type greaser, isn't nearly as annoying as quite a lot of people were fearing. The ending hints that we might get a movie all about him one day, and after seeing this film I'm a lot more open to that than I would have been before. With all that said, the film does have a few flaws. There's an over-reliance on CGI, though not to the extent of the Star Wars prequels. Still, the opening sequence featuring a bunch of prairie dogs at various points for no reason than showing off some pretty mediocre computer effects definitely shouldn't have been made the final cut, and there's a few other scenes where the computer work is a bit too obvious. Naturally, the movie has quite a few references to the previous films, and those are appreciated, but occasionally they don't work too well. I don't think it's spoiling much to say we get a glimpse of the Ark of the Covenant in the big factory fight we've seen in the trailers, but that's all it is. We see it, the camera lingers on it to make sure we see it, and that's it. Why tease us with something like that if it isn't going to come up again? Also, one character's death scene from an earlier indie film is recreated pretty closely. Saying which character would give a big spoiler, but suffice to say, I ended up feeling like the person it happened to served no purpose in the film besides giving them an excuse for a reference like that, so they just came across as a waste of space otherwise. Despite these complaints, I did generally like this film. It's got some very exciting scenes and some nicely scary scenes too, and besides that, it's just a blast to see Indiana Jones on the big screen, something I never got to do before now. I don't know if another film is forthcoming, but if they can still be made as well as this, I'll sure welcome them. Oh, and it turns out John Hurt doesn't play Abner Ravenwood in this film. Thanks whoever put that on IMDb, making me look like a moron in my first ever YouTube video.